you can take profit of the low mortgages because you think you wouldn't qualify a stress test. As long as you don't take new money, you can change. And it's what I'm saying this because it's November 2016, so we foresee it's only one more year to go for the people who in the 2016 got 5 years, right? So if you're not people that is still paying a high interest rate because they think they won't qualify, there's a shortcut for that. And last but not the least, very important, deferral. Like we saw that those people deferring their mortgages with the COVID help. And a lot of people, the government and banks were saying deferrals are not going to affect your credit. And that's just halfway true. I say halfway because the number of your credit is not being affected, but we can see totally what has happened with your referrals. And the position the lenders are taking with this is like, why will we give new money to this person if there is hardship? So the concept for a lender is, if you defer, you're going through problems, which we know 1/3 of the people who defer just took advantage of the benefit. So if you defer your mortgage in the past and you are planning to refinance, add a HELOC, or take profit of the lower interest rate, make sure you pull your credit, make sure you know what happened. And if there is a mistake, do fix it. We have been seeing a lot of lenders reporting in a wrong way the deferral and actually affecting the credit. So I will just encourage everyone to, you know, every Canadian has the right once per year to pull their credit without affecting it. So it's good to know what is being said of you in your credit and the financial system. And if you need any help with that or questions, here I am. Thank you, Rick.
All right. Awesome. Thanks, Ariana. And I would recommend to anybody out there that you go to Equifax or TransUnion or one of the two. And I know with Equifax, I do this. I have an account with Equifax. I pay, I think it's like $12 a month or something like that. And I can pull my credit anytime and monitor my credit. And I get reports all the time from them on what's happening with my credit. So super important that you monitor your credit. So having that account will help you to make more money, and it only costs $12 a month. It's worth it. Yeah. All right, so we're gonna move into, anything else you wanna go over, Sua, before we move into Julie's presentation?
Well, all I gotta say is because the bond rates and the fluctuation in the whole entire market, it's not going anywhere soon. The rates won't be going up, especially you buying apartment properties, anything that's 6 and high, you get CMHC financing. You think that residential property on a primary residence at 1.58% is cheap? Wait until you go into CMHC finance and you'll be like, what?
Yeah.
Right. They're much lower. Last I heard, they're seeing around 1.35 for like a 5-year for CMHC apartment rental. It's so cheap. The money is, but mind you, it's different, right? It's the bond market directly. It affects that day to day.
Yeah.
So if anybody's into apartment buildings, it might be a good time to revisit that refinancing now. The only challenge, mind you, is if you refinance any apartment building, they want to buy more apartment buildings. You can't cash out and spend it on anything else. So that's the only challenge that I've seen with CMHC.
Conventional, they've locked your refinance.
They pretty much stipulate what you can do with your money now.
No way, really? Wow.
Yeah. So instead of refinancing your apartment and being a cash out, give back to your investors, they won't allow that anymore.
So they won't let you buy a Ferrari with it anymore.
That's right. In the future, that may change, but right now, that's a stumbling block that a lot of investors saying, "What? I want my money back."
Yeah. Huh. Interesting.
So that exit strategy is now off the books temporarily. But if you're looking for mixed use, rates are still pretty good. You're sitting around 3%. Sometimes you get a little bit lower. It's crazy. I've never seen even commercial rates that this low ever. All right. Milk. Then when the cow's giving milk, guys, so go out shop, especially in Okanagan area. Connect with Ariana or Julie. That's their territory.
All right.
So
good for you guys.
Let's get the show going so that we can hear more about all the goody stuff from Julie. She's muted, so she's better unmute.
Absolutely. So Julie, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Great. Here I go, everybody.
Think you
Ready
can
or
just share
not?
your screen now.
Ready or not, here I come.
Everyone seeing? Everyone seeing Julie's screen? Oriana,
Yeah.
do you see it? Okay, good. All right,
Okay.
let's roll.
All right, thank you so much. You guys are awesome. Thank you for having me here. This is my second time here. I'm very honored. I really appreciate all of you who have picked me over Dr. Bonnie Henry. Well, and those of you who haven't, I understand if you're watching this that you're concerned, and a lot of people are concerned. I wish you all well. I wish you all peace, and most of all, I wish you all health, okay? Oriana, that was an awesome overview. Same with you, Sua. And Oriana and I are practically neighbors in the Okanagan Valley. That is so cool. I love meeting another rock star real estate investor lady. So fun.
Awesome.
And let's just get right into things. Is there anything I should add before I get started, Rick, that I'm forgetting?
No, I don't think so. Just gratitude for being, being able to do what you do. That's all.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. Again, I can't believe I'm being asked back here already. Like I am. I'm incredibly honored. I will let you know that I have 5 children under the age of 19. And
Wow.
they are banging doors and walking back and forth and talking to each other really loudly. So you might hear them. They're beautiful voices. I did let them know I was here, but I think they have amnesia or something like that. So that might happen. My dog might bark. But you know what? I think we're all in our home offices and we kind of get it. So tonight I'm going to talk about some coaching clients that I've been working with and some lessons that we've learned. They're all pretty creative real estate investment strategies. And then I'm going to talk about some more, I'm going into a little bit more detail on benefits and drawbacks. So again, for those of you who don't already know me, I'm going to just kind of gloss over just kind of skim over my story. Because if you didn't watch the last one, I think I went over my long-winded dramatic story, but I'm going to tell it again, probably in a more of a Cole's Notes version. And then I'm going to share 3 stories of different coaching clients that I've worked with. And it's my hope that it helps you find different ways to find deals and to identify different people who are motivated sellers for different reasons. And then I'm going to do my best to give you as many details on the property and the deals itself that really helps you learn, because that's my objective, that you learn something after you leave here tonight, and that you leave this event either a little bit, or better yet, a lot smarter, or your brain's more full than when you came in. That I know I'll have achieved my goal if that happens to you. So again, I'm going to go through the stories, and then I'm going to talk about the benefits, drawbacks, and some of the differences between lease options, agreements for sale, and vendor take-back mortgages, because all of them, in my experience and in my coaching clients' experience, have been low money down deals. And anybody that's been a real estate investor, maybe you're starting out and you don't have a lot of money, or you've been doing this a while and now you're equity rich and cash poor, or you've just hit maybe a bit of a wall. All of us real estate investors usually hit that point. And I just find that if you have plenty of your own money all the time, then why are you maybe looking into real estate investment in the first place? You know what I mean? So this is usually these are usually strategies that speak to a lot of people, and it's also a great way to help people get into home ownership as well, which feels really good. So here's my story, and this is why I know so much about these creative strategies. All right. So between 2001 and 2006, things were awesome. Started investing in real estate, had a baby, bought a whole bunch of properties in Alberta, and in the market in Alberta from 2001 to 2006. I'll give you an example. We bought a house in Sherwood Park in 2001 for $160,000. We sold it in 2006 for $425,000. And that kind of thing happened to basically our whole portfolio. And we had a 36 house condo, 4-plex portfolio. And that was so much fun. We felt so smart, like we're brilliant. So we condo converted, we bought buildings, and then we sold them off in pieces, and then we bought more buildings. And we bought a whole bunch of buildings going into the fall of 2007. So at that time, that's when the recession really started for people like me and for land developers, because gophers don't pay rent. And so suddenly all my buyers dried up. I was stuck basically with 5 apartment buildings, and things just went from bad to worse. Now, we fought the good fight. We fought for 4 years hard, trying to save our real estate investment portfolio, and we didn't have to do this, but we decided to make the very, very tough decision to enter bankruptcy protection despite everything that we had done. And that time between 2007 and 2011, I learned so much. I became very street smart when it came to real estate investment, along with my husband, Jeff, who, when I say me, I mean me and my husband, Jeff, just so that everybody understands, because I couldn't do any of this without him. Anyway, we fought the good fight, learned a lot of lessons. Unfortunately, it all collapsed. Bankruptcy, multiple foreclosures, no fun. Then in 2012, we moved out to the Okanagan, which is a wonderful place to heal. And that's what we did. And we started over. And we were only able to rebuild, because we'd just gone through bankruptcy, by finding low money down and no bank qualified deals. And so what ended up happening is I was sharing my story. I was telling people about what happened. And because, you know, I still wanted to be investing in real estate. I'd still been in real estate, and a lot of people knew me from real estate investment, and I was sharing my story. And so a lot of people started coming out of the woodwork needing to sell their property. And since I'd gone through what I had, I understood where they were coming from. So fortunately, one of the ways I was able to rebuild another multi-million-dollar real estate investment portfolio, and still I'm able to do it today and coach people how to do it, is because I went through it myself. So I started coaching in 2013. Officially, that's when I became the Street Smart Diva. And in 2016, we started the Okanagan Real Estate Investment Group, primarily because I would always tell my coaching clients, you need to be networking, you need to be networking. And there wasn't any place to network with other real estate investors. So that's why we created OREG, and it's been absolutely wonderful. And so that's just kind of the Coles Notes of my story. So I want to talk about one of my best coaching clients. I have amazing coaching clients, and this is Trina, and she is just an absolute rock star. And we put together a bandit sign course that goes along with my coaching. And Trina is a mom of 4 in Lethbridge, Alberta. And she started coaching with me, and we started working together, and she took the bandit sign course, and she absolutely sprinted with it. So pretty soon she became the bandit sign lady of Lethbridge. And she had her ugly yellow signs all over town. And before too long, Isaac, a motivated seller, a tired landlord, okay, he called her and he said, I have a whole bunch of properties. I'm tired of Lethbridge winters. I'm kind of tied here because I have so many tenants. I want to spend 6 months a year in Mexico. I'll sell it, I'll sell you a couple of houses. And she said, well, will you carry financing in? Because he was an investor, he kind of got it. He understood what she was asking for. So Trina and I worked together. We put together paperwork for an agreement for sale. All right. Now, an agreement for sale is kind of like when the seller stays on title as the title owner. Maybe there's a mortgage on the property, maybe not. And then the seller acts like a bank. Okay. So it's not a vendor take back mortgage, because I'm going to talk about that. I'm going to touch on it. It's called an agreement for sale, and it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger in Alberta, and it's about to get bigger in BC, because you know who is teaching people how to do it. So anyway, it is a really phenomenal way to do deals. We put together this agreement for sale. There were 2 lawyers in Lethbridge. They knew how to put together agreements for sale, and I mentioned that because I'm going to talk about it later. And what Trina was able to negotiate was an absolutely phenomenal deal. So she only had to put $30,000 down on 2 half duplexes. So a total of $15,000 down per property. Each property is very good, positive cash flow. She did not have to qualify for financing. And get this, we were just talking about mortgage rates with Oriana and with Sua. She negotiated an agreement for sale. And again, I mentioned that an agreement for sale is when the seller acts as the bank. So just like a bank, there's usually an amortization, and you can pick any amortization you want. It can be 20 years or 30 years or 40 years. You have total freedom. Well, actually, I don't know if you have total freedom, but you have more freedom than banks are going to give you. Anyway, she negotiated a 30-year amortization with no term. Okay, so she has 30 years to buy this property at a set price at a 2% rate. So this guy's happy, the seller, the motivated seller, because now he's just got income and he's just the bank and he doesn't have to take tenant phone calls anymore. Trina's going to take care of that. And he's motivated because, again, he doesn't want to be tied to his properties. And guess what? She's probably going to buy the rest of them because she pulled this off and it worked absolutely so well. She's an absolute rock star. She is out there rocking it like crazy. I'm so incredibly proud of her. And so that's an example of how an agreement for sale can go. Now, here's another agreement for sale example. This is Havan, and Havan is actually a member of Synergy. And this is how, and I met Havan from the last time I presented here. I can't remember when that was. But anyway, it was a couple months ago. And Havan, again, he hit the ground running. But here's the thing with Havan. He lives in Abbotsford, and he wanted to be investing in property in Alberta because Havan is smart. I know everybody here that's watching is smart, but Havan knows that you can get quite a few properties in Alberta for the same price as you can get one property in the Lower Mainland without land transfer tax. But here's the thing, he lives in Abbotsford, so and he works full time and he has a family. So we also offer through my coaching program something called the Digital Bandit Sign course. So he took that course and he ran with it, and he just went in depth online and he started going absolutely crazy, marketing here, marketing there, primarily focusing on Kijiji. And before too long, a motivated seller showed up, and this lady was a realtor, and she was in desperate need of some fast cash. She had a family situation going on, unfortunately, but she needed fast cash. She didn't own this property very long, so it had a fairly high mortgage. So Havan and I worked together. We put together terms on an agreement for sale. We had it all written up and we were so excited, and we're like, okay. And she signed it. She was like, yes, this is a great solution for me. I'm not going to have to pay my prepayment penalty. I'm going to get a whole bunch of money. I don't mind keeping the financing in place. I understand what an agreement for sale is. I know you guys are going to look after me. I get to move on. Okay, that's how motivated sellers feel. They want to move on. Sometimes because they have family emergencies, sometimes because they want to spend 6 months of winter in Mexico. It's all kinds of reasons. So we put together an agreement for sale offer, but here's the thing. Oh, let me tell you about the offer first. I'm so mad because I'm giving away the ending, but it fell apart. But anyway, he negotiated, my coaching client, Havan, negotiated $20,000 down on a house with a basement suite in a nice area of Edmonton, Alberta. It had positive cash flow. He didn't have to qualify for financing. And best of all, it had equity in it. It had $30,000 conservatively of equity in this property. However, we ran into an agreement for sale challenge. So AFS, when you're looking at AFS, what's that mean? That means agreement for sale, okay? Now, going back to my coaching client, Trina, she's in Lethbridge. She's got these 2 rock star lawyers who get it, and they put together an agreement for sale, and it couldn't have gone more smoothly. Like, it was amazing. I'm like, whoa, all the lawyers in Alberta, they're just doing this, right? But I was wrong because I sent the paperwork to the lawyer that I've been using lately in Edmonton, but I hadn't done an agreement for sale yet. And he said, what is this? I'm like, it's an agreement for sale. He's like, I know. I don't know how to do it. I did one on a commercial property a couple of years ago. This is going to take me at least 10 business days. I'm like, what? And he said, yeah, it's going to take, and I just was like scrambling in my brain. I kind of was stuck. I didn't know what to do. And guess what? This seller did not have 10 business days. She didn't have 10 minutes. She needed her money now. So while we were trying to sort things out, find lawyers that can do it, and looking back, I should have just sent the deal to the 2 lawyers in Lethbridge, but I didn't. My bad as a coach. Definitely learned, okay? but never assume. That's my point. You just got to make sure everybody knows what they're doing, because assuming, as you know, you've probably heard it in school since you were in grade 5, it makes an ass out of you and it makes an ass out of me. And in this case, I just feel terrible for my coaching client, because he could have had a really sweet deal. And unfortunately, you know, the time ran out on the clock. So sometimes you win and sometimes you learn. And this was definitely an expense. It wasn't an expensive lesson. Nobody was out of money, other than, you know, the seller, she ended up selling it. And she only ended up making about $12,000. We were going to give her 20. She had expensive lawyer fees. She had to pay a prepayment penalty. And we would have just been able to help her more, because she would have got some debt pay down over time, and she would have got money in her pocket, and she just, you know, she would have been a little better off working with us. But anyway, you win or you learn, okay? I hope all this is making sense to you. And by the way, it's going to be recorded, I think, so you should be able to watch the replay or pause. At least that's my hope. And I hope everybody's learning. So anyway, okay, this is the third deal. That was so much fun. So this is Carol. And Carol has been curious about real estate for a long, long time. She finally reached out to me through a Dave DeBow event that Dave hosted me at an event just like this. And Carol took the leap and she signed up with me, and we started coaching together. And as part of my coaching program, I have, like, I don't know, a whole bunch of modules that I recommend that you go through. And one of them is all about, you know, finding deals and different ways to find deals. And part of different ways to find deals is to make sure you're bringing up real estate in every conversation that you're having, at least once. You don't have to be that annoying guy that you don't want to hang around with anymore because he won't shut up about things. But you want to be bringing it up now and then. So Carol, she's an empty nester, living in a great neighborhood in Ottawa with her husband. She's visiting with her daughter. Her daughter comes to visit along with her boyfriend, Greg. And so Carol is doing the steps, and she's a really shy lady. That's why I don't have a picture of her, but she's phenomenal. And she's a really shy lady, but she's doing the steps, and she's starting to bring up real estate in the street smart way, because that's what it's called. And her daughter says, "Mom, what have you been up to?" And Carol says, "Well, I just finished module 3 of my new real estate investment course that I've been taking." And she said, "Oh my God, Mom, you're taking a real estate investment course. I didn't even know that you were interested in real estate. Greg's aunt is selling her house. She might list it, but she doesn't want to list it. She's got her place picked out, though, where she wants to move. She knows exactly what she wants to spend on it. She knows that there's still a spot available for her where she wanted to ride out the rest of her years. It was a perfect spot. But she didn't want a realtor because she didn't want to pay a realtor. Now, I love realtors, and any realtor that I know will tell you the same thing. But she didn't want to pay a realtor. She just didn't want to. She wanted to save some money. And she also didn't want it shown a whole bunch. And she also didn't want to declutter and make sure it was clean all the time. And she had a realtor just kind of wander through at some point. The realtor recommended that she paint the walls and that she replace the flooring. She just didn't want to go through all that. So, but yet she was motivated. She still wanted to sell. She wanted everything to just be done. So Carol put an offer in. Carol had a rough idea of what she was looking for, because another part of the module for part of my coaching is get to know your market. Know what values are. Know if you're going to go after condos, know what the condos are worth in the area that you want. Know what houses are worth in the area that you want. You've got to be dialed in. So, and she'd been doing that, right? So she makes an offer. It's just a private sale, right? Just buyer to seller. We worked together to put this whole offer together. An Ottawa real estate purchase agreement, which I, by the way, had never done before because I'm like a Westerner, right? So we put this together. It's just a straight purchase, but here's the cool thing. She was ready to put 20% down. And she only had to put 5% down because she decided to buy it for her daughter. And CMHC rules, if you buy a house for your child, and her child was having a hard time getting into the market, if you buy it for your child, you can qualify for 5% down. So this was not only a win for her, it was a win for her daughter and her daughter's boyfriend. And it's just an amazing opportunity. And there's some rules in place. You've got to fall within some certain guidelines, but they qualified and it worked out. And it worked out so beautifully because she was expecting to have to put 20% down on a $500,000 home, and she only had to put 5% down. And it was really, really fun. So I learned that you can implement that strategy. It's for a very, very, very niche market, but it was a huge win for everybody. So 5% down, which is awesome. So it's low money down, right? Again, it was the original owner. It was in great condition, but it was, kind of dated, but still in great condition. She walked into $20,000 of equity because the Ottawa real estate investment market is red hot. And between her making an offer and her actually in it getting appraised, the market went up. Now, this is where she did absolutely phenomenally well, which was fantastic, but we had a bit of a hiccup. And that hiccup was there was a message lost in translation. So I just assumed that everybody was talking to everybody, that the mortgage broker was talking to the bank, was talking to the lawyer, was talking to everybody. And an amendment got missed where Carol, my coaching client, and the seller decided to close a week early. Carol, my coaching client, her lawyer didn't get the memo. The bank got the memo. The mortgage broker got the memo. The seller knew, seller's lawyer knew, but Carol's lawyer didn't know. And see, her lawyer is the one that has to ask the bank for the money. And so it was stressful. It got delayed a week. It could have been a real mess. Fortunately, it wasn't because everybody worked together in peace and harmony, but it was a stressful week. Again, because I assumed, she assumed, but ultimately it's on me. It's on my shoulders, which is why this is such a good lesson. Never assume. You want to make absolutely sure that all the T's are crossed twice, 3 times, and dotted as many times as you need to. You have to make sure absolutely everybody is on the same page because it could have been a disaster. Fortunately, it wasn't. Could have been. So again, I just want to reiterate some of the general lessons that I've watched and learned from my coaching clients. And again, it is just an absolute privilege for me to be able to work with some of these people. There are deals out there, but you have to be looking. You can be looking through bandit signs. You could be talking to people. You could have coffee shop pull tabs. Even though it's hard to get around in coffee shops these days, you could have flyers on cars. You could be searching online. There's all kinds of ways to find deals, but again, you have to be out there digging for them. So make sure you're doing that. And again, every motivated seller has their own reason, right? So it could be, I want to live someplace else a lot of the time. Sua's in Bali, pretty nice, hey? If he was, the manager of a whole bunch of properties in the Lower Mainland, he may not feel as comfortable about going to Bali, right? He's probably I'm sure he's got systems in place and managers in place and that kind of thing for his properties. But this guy wanted to move on and he didn't feel like he could unless he had let go of some of his properties. And then this seller she's just moving on to her next chapter of life and didn't want to deal with all the hassle that can come with listing a property. It can be expensive and annoying and aggravating and stressful. So really, really cool. Keep in mind, every motivated seller has a reason. Also, never assume, in case you didn't get that already. Always make sure everybody's on the same team because it's just really, really important. And it's actually a benefit of having realtors involved in a deal. Although between you and me and the lamp, most of the deals that I find that are the best deals, I don't get through realtors. That's because I find them, through other means. And again, I love realtors. I do use realtors. And like I said, if you have 2 more sets of eyes on a deal, you got 2 more people that are making sure everything is done properly. So I think a lot of you are probably nodding your head and understand what I'm talking about. You want to have your team ready, your mortgage broker, your banker, your lawyer. You want to have everybody on the same page so that you know what's coming. in a lot of cases, you want to be ready to act quickly. So maybe that means you need to dig in and understand how to fill out a real estate purchase contract. I know a lot of people who want to be real estate investors, but they don't know how to fill out a contract. Or maybe you want to learn about agreements for sale because it's such a cool strategy, or lease options, or vendor take-back mortgages, which I'm going to be talking a little bit about. And again, there are deals out there, okay? They're everywhere. They're even in the Okanagan, okay? They are in the Okanagan. We just acquired 2 properties in the last 90 days from motivated sellers in the Okanagan. I know nobody will believe it, but we did. And so just keep that in mind, because again, everybody has their own reason to be a motivated seller. And anybody can do this. So Havan, he's a dad living in the Lower Mainland, working full time, working hard, and doing as much real estate as he possibly can in his spare time. Trina, she's a mom. She's got 4 kids. She's running around, putting up bandit signs, taking calls, putting deals together. Carol, she's an empty nester and also works full time, and her husband works full time. She's making it happen. So if these folks can do it, and they are absolutely superstars, but anybody can be a superstar in real estate. So if you don't think that you can do it, you're wrong, okay? You're just wrong, because anybody can do it. I mentioned earlier, I have 5 kids, COVID's going on, I'm married, and I'm running businesses and things like that. And I still find motivated sellers, and I absolutely love it. Okay, I'm working on 2 deals in Calgary right now, motivated sellers. So anybody can do this. I promise you, I promise you this. Now, I want to talk a little bit about the fact that I'm really a no money down girl. My highest preference for properties is no bank qualify. All right, so I'm going to go through 3 strategies that I'm going to try to touch on and educate you absolutely as much as possible about. And so let's get started on that. But before I do, I'm not a lawyer, okay? And I'm talking about legal situations. So these are contracts that need to be, reviewed by a lawyer. You need to consult a lawyer. But I also need to add, not all lawyers are built the same, okay? Not even all real estate lawyers, because even real estate lawyers, 95% or 99% of the work that they do is the standard. A seller is using a realtor and buying to a buyer that is buying with the realtor. That's what most lawyers are doing, okay? So you really need to find a real estate investment lawyer that's familiar with some of the things that I'm about to go through. And you may have to kiss a few frogs, okay? And that's all right. You need to find the lawyer that works best for you, because you're the client, you're the one that needs the work done. And again, you've got to find the people that'll work best for you. And again, it needs to be a real estate investment minded lawyer, and also a creative real estate investment minded lawyer, even better. And there's not a ton out there, but you can find them. I know you can. So benefits and drawbacks. I'm going to talk about benefits and drawbacks of 3 different things: lease options, vendor take-back mortgages, and agreements for sale. Probably not in that order, although lease options is up first, isn't it? So what I have labeled is the buyer in yellow. That's specifically to buyers when it comes to benefits and drawbacks, and that's on all 3 slides. And if it's relevant to both the buyer and seller, it's still in white. So I hope that makes sense. Anyway, so a lease option is where you have a residential lease in place, but then you also have an option to purchase in place. Okay, so this type of an agreement can be registered on title, which is great. The lease cannot, and it's a separate document. So the nice thing about, some of the nice things about lease options is that, especially for benefits, as far as sellers are, or as far as buyers are concerned, they are ways that you can buy property with low money down and sometimes no money down. It can't be no money down, I should clarify. You need to provide at least some kind of money for, it's called the down payment or option consideration, okay? So, but we did a deal like this a year ago, gave them $100 and a bag of pierogies. Like, no joke, that was our down payment. And of course, for buyers, don't have to qualify for financing in a lease option. for both buyer and seller. The benefits are there's some flexibility, it's less expensive, and you have some options, which relates to the flexibility. So when it comes to flexibility, what I'm talking about is maybe the buyer needs an extension because they need another year to repair their credit or to increase their income or something like that. Well, when you're dealing with an individual, it's going to be much easier to negotiate with an individual than it is to negotiate with, say, a bank that can't, has the power to just say, no, we don't do that. Okay, so it's people working with people. Again, also it's less expensive on the legal side of things because it's not a real estate purchase, especially in places where there is land transfer tax. Okay, so in BC and Ontario, I forget where else there's land transfer tax, but you don't have to pay land transfer tax when you're executing an option to purchase until you actually buy it and it becomes yours on title. So here are some of the drawbacks. And Oriana, I don't know if you've seen any of these, but banks hate these options. They hate it when they smell something that is a rent to own. And I've never had a bank love one of these deals. And it can be really tough to close them. Now, that said, I've never had a deal like this not complete. So I've had a 100% success rate. The only exception that hasn't succeeded is if the buyer did not want to buy the property anymore, in which case they were able to go. And that goes back to some of the benefits, is it gives people flexibility. If they decide they don't want the house, they can walk away. They walk away from money, but they can walk away. But anyway, banks know they don't like it. They don't like them. Lease issues can be difficult to enforce as well. Let's say that the buyer goes into default. Well, in an ideal world, now you've got a lease and now you can evict them. But I've heard horror stories where it actually doesn't quite work that way, and it can get all mixed up and it can get all gray and shady and hazy, and it can cause problems. Okay, so you want to make sure that you've really pre-qualified your tenant buyer and make sure that there's somebody that really is on the mend, somebody that has a good job and just experienced some setbacks and needs some time to repair. And then when it comes to really best practices, when it comes to lease options, a long time ago, when they'd have a lot of people going through town, training people on rent to own and stuff like that. There was a time where somebody could pay a $20,000 down payment, and you could allocate, you could use those funds like to invest in more property. Or you could get great cash flow as part of the option. It's called the option consideration on a monthly basis, where you can have pretty strong cash flow. But the best practice for a lease option is to make sure that you save the down payment and you let it sit there as long as for the length of the term. And also any money that's monthly money that goes toward the purchase. So what could look like a strong cash deal and a strong cash flowing deal really isn't, because it's best practice to just leave it in place, because again, it goes back to the whole purpose of somebody going into a lease option is because they want to buy the house. So you want to do everything you possibly can in order to make that happen. All right, let's talk about agreements for sale. Again, I mentioned this before. An agreement for sale is when the seller stays on title. Maybe there's a mortgage in place, maybe there's not, but then the seller offers the buyer a set purchase price and then basically bank terms. So an amortization, or it could be interest only, a rate, and typically a term, okay? So some of the benefits are very parallel to a lease with an option to purchase. Again, it could be low money down. In this case, it could be no money down. You don't have to put a down payment down for an agreement for sale. And again, it's no bank qualify, which just opens up your market for how many properties you can buy. Again, it gives you flexibility, because if you buy a property as an agreement for sale and you decide you don't want it anymore, you can give the property back. You can just give the property back, as if you're giving it back to the bank, and it likely won't affect your credit, depending on who you work with. So of course, it gives you options. So maybe you decide, no, I don't want to buy this property anymore, or you're or for whatever reason you move, or yeah, you decide you're not into real estate anymore, it does. It gives you options. It's bank friendly. Banks like these kinds of agreements better than lease options because you can very accurately track, okay, they made this payment, and I can provide a ledger that says of this payment, this went to interest, this went to principal, and so on and so forth. So it's a little bit more bank friendly when it comes to getting financing at the end of the day. And when it comes to as a seller, okay, so we're into the white section here. I can keep any down payment I get if I'm selling a property this way, and I can keep any kind of cash flow that I have. So the difference between what the mortgage that I have in place and whatever I'm charging, I get to keep all that money because I am the bank, and that's how I've set it up. Some of the drawbacks though, so let's always go over those, is higher legal fees to prepare an agreement for sale, typically than, in my experience, than a lease option. And land transfer tax, at least in BC, now I don't know about the other provinces, but in BC you have to pay the land transfer tax up front, which just makes it more expensive, right? So you not only need a down payment as if you're a buyer, but you also need to pay for the land transfer tax, which is usually multiple thousands of dollars. Also, as a seller, it's expensive to dissolve an agreement for sale because it's basically a foreclosure. And foreclosures cost at least $30,000. Even a friendly foreclosure can cost that much. And a friendly foreclosure, by the way, is something where the seller says, I don't want it anymore. And the buyer says, okay. You know, so it can cost a lot of money. So that's just something to keep in mind. So again, you want to make sure that you've got a tenant buyer or a buyer that is going to complete, plain and simple. All right, vendor take-back mortgage. So a vendor take-back mortgage, or a VTB, as you may have heard or read about, is where a vendor transfers title to you as the buyer, but then they go on the title as the bank. Okay, so now title's yours, but your bank is Joe Smith, if that's the guy who's selling it to you, rather than TD or Bank of Montreal or RBC or whoever your typical retail banks are, okay? So VTB, just like an agreement for sale, is gonna have terms like a bank, right? So there's gonna be a rate, there's probably gonna be a term, and there's gonna be an amortization unless it's interest only, which can sometimes happen. We are in a VTB right now where it's an interest only deal, and it's great because the payment's not very high. So the cash flow is really good. Anyway, benefits. Again, low money down. It can be no money down. Don't have to qualify for financing because the bank is the seller. Banks like VTBs. They like them more than agreements for sale, and they like them way more than they like lease options. You can refinance because you're on title. Okay, you can't refinance a property that you don't have title ownership to. You can refinance and pay your VTB out that way, which is, it's just another added benefit of freedom to the buyer. And you can also sell the property, right? So you have the freedom to sell the property as the title owner. Now you can do a lot of sandwich stuff with VTBs and lease options, but that's getting into the weeds. I'm not going to get into the weeds with that. Just let's leave it with, you can sell the property as a title owner for now, okay? Okay, now again, whatever down payment you get as the seller, you can keep. So if it's higher cash flow, great, you can keep that money, you can deploy, you can buy other properties, get a down payment, you can buy other properties. You can do whatever you want with it, actually. Go to Bali and get a nice place where you're right across from all the massage therapy people. You know, people do things like that. I'm giving Sue a hard time. He's in Bali right now, and I am a little bit jealous. I'm a lot jealous, okay? All right, so drawbacks. We have some drawbacks when it comes to VTBs, though. They can also be expensive because it's higher legal fees, just like the agreement for sale. Again, in BC, actually anywhere there's land transfer tax, for sure, because title is being transferred, okay? That will trigger that. So again, it's going to be more expensive. And again, a foreclosure is involved if anything goes sideways and you stop paying as the buyer, or you're the VTB person and whoever's buying it from you stops paying. Foreclosure, 30 grand minimum. So those are benefits and drawbacks of lots of different things. Those are some success stories and lessons learned from a bunch of my coaching clients. I feel so lucky to be a coach. It is one of the most rewarding things that I've ever done. And I now know why I had to go through, you know, the heartache and the heartbreak that I did, is because it helps me coach people from a lot of different angles, and it helps me help a lot more people. So if my coaching resonates with you, I encourage you to reach out to me and book a meeting. I'm gonna put the link in the chat, or if one of you guys could somebody help me with that and put the link in the chat? Would that be all right? Just give me a nod if you're cool with that, or I'll do it. Whatever. You got that for me, Rick?
Yeah, you bet. I'll take care of that. So what you want me to put the link in the chat?
Well, actually, I can do that. I'm not an idiot. I only do about 58 Zooms a day.
No, it's okay. Which link is it you want to put in the chat?
You know what? Seriously, I'm just going to type it in because I'm good. But
Okay.
thank you. Thank you anyway, sweetie. So I'm typing in streetsmartdiva.com. You can probably hear my keyboard /book. And that's how you get a hold of me. And I would love to talk to you. And I want you to know, if we talk, I'm never going to pressure you. If we have a fit, great. If we don't, that's okay too. Either way, it's going to be nice to make a connection. And I'm happy to answer questions to the best of my ability if we still have time.
I didn't see that pop into the chat. So did you type it into your chat and click?
You didn't see it pop in?
No, I don't
Chat.
see it like that. Sue, do you see it?
Me too, everyone.
I see it.
Did
Are
you
you
see
guys
it?
seeing it?
We can see it.
Yeah,
She
we
just
can see
doesn't
it.
want to meet with you.
Oriana, ¿cómo está usted? ¿De dónde eres?
That's all right. You
Colombia.
give me a hard time. That's
Oh,
okay.
Colombia.
Like I'm not tech savvy somehow here. Like what's going
Oh,
on?
you're-
I'm not seeing the chat.
You're doing great. Oh, Colombia. That's
Interesting.
awesome.
I don't know why I'm not seeing the chat. Has anybody else written anything? Are you seeing anything else, Ariana? Any questions?
I don't see questions. I just see Julie link, but no questions.
Interesting. Okay, so
Yeah, so I've got this booking calendar, and I know I don't have anything open until next week, but I'd love to meet you. And if you don't have questions because your head is spinning, I get it. I talked really fast and I went over a lot of things. I hope it was beneficial for you. This work is fun. When you know how to do this kind of stuff, it gives you infinite possibilities in real estate investment. And it's not easy. I'm going to tell you that right now.
Gives you freedom. You can do it when you're in Valley.
okay, I found the chat now.
Oh, you found it? Good job, Rick. Yay, Rick!
I thought it was in the bottom of the participants list, but it's not.
Oh, okay, yeah. That's okay. No problem. We got some participants. Who's here? Who do I know?
All right, so that's awesome. Great presentation, Julie. I think you're fantastic. You have so much incredible information to share with investors that are going to help them to build their portfolios. And if they want to do it really fast, the best way to do it for everyone out there is to connect with Julie and take her course. You know, it's the investment in taking her course will pay off for the rest of your life, because like her other coaching clients, you'll take off right away and you'll start buying properties right away. If you're not buying properties now, but you want to, the best thing to do is to get a coach. A coach can fast track your road to wealth and to building a portfolio. And Julie's the go-to person for that, for sure. Absolutely.
And I know you are too, Rick, and I know you are too, Sue. It's important work. It's very important work.
Absolutely, yeah.
And I didn't want this to be all salesy, because y'all are just, you have a lot of choices. I know you have a lot of choices when it comes to all this online content, because it's everywhere because of COVID. I just want each and every one of you to know that you can do it. And I hope I get
one of the things I want to ask you about, Julie, is
Yeah.
because I've done some work on agreements and for sale and stuff like that. And one of the difficult parts of the whole thing is that people don't understand the contract when they see it, because it's not a standard real estate contract. And that can be a pretty big obstacle, especially when the person on the other side has a real estate agent or somebody like that representing them, or a lawyer that doesn't understand it.
Right.
So how do you overcome that?
I overcome that by only doing this with motivated sellers,
Right.
because a motivated seller will give you the shirt off their back if you will
Right.
just take this property off their hands.
So that's the key. So no matter what, they're going to want to do the deal.
So it's like, I'll sign anything, I'll do anything. And it sounds
Sure.
crazy, but I'm telling you, when I was going through all of my challenges, you think I wanted to go through 38 foreclosures? No.
Right. Of course
I would have given darn near anything for somebody just to know how to help me.
Right.
And it sounds crazy. I know it sounds crazy, but I know how people feel. It can create an incredible win-win. It's not just a valuable skill for you to be infinitely successful and again create infinite opportunities and freedom. It is rewarding.
Sure.
Can I tell you another story about some coaching clients? Do I have time?
Absolutely. Yeah. Tell us about your coaching clients. Yeah. We want to hear success stories, because every one of these people out there want to be successful in real estate. Tell them what's possible.
Okay, so sometimes I get emotional. I don't think I will, but I might. And I can clear a room with my tears. Like it's hard. So be careful. Anyway, all right. So these people, I've been working with us. Anyway, I had this connection with this gentleman, and he called me one day, and I was working with him on some other stuff. And he said, listen, we've got this situation where I think we're going to have to go through foreclosure. So can you just kind of walk us through the process so that we know what's coming? Because he knew I'd gone through many of them, right? And I said, oh, well, I can, but what's going on? Tell me what's going on. And he told me what was going on. And then I said, he had a first mortgage and a second mortgage that was way overdue, and somebody had stolen like $250,000 out of a bank account, and they were left holding the bag, and it was just a mess. It was like, ugh, ugly, disgusting mess. Very sad. And these people were at risk of, they'd put $100,000 into keeping it afloat. So not only were these investors at risk that were on the property, these folks were at risk of losing $100,000. So sad. But I'm like, wait, your girlfriend had, and it was his girlfriend's house. So your girlfriend has a really good job, doesn't she? He's like, oh yeah. I'm like, well, why can't she just refinance it? He's like, huh? I'm like, yeah, she should be able to refinance it. She's got great income. Let's check that out. Let's see. So we got them in front of Dan Heon, who's a genius. And Dan looked at her. He said, you got great credit. These are private mortgages that were on her property, so it wasn't affecting her credit, despite the fact that it was a mess and it was in default, and it was hemorrhaging money everywhere. So this took 5 months to explain the situation to the lenders involved, one of whom had a major language barrier. She'd been basically taken advantage of, a lady from the Philippines, with all this money at risk. We put together a solution where everybody was going to get all their money back.
Awesome.
She was able to refinance the deal. The first mortgage got paid out. Second mortgage, she got a big chunk, almost half, and she's going to get the rest in 5 years over time. And my coaching client is going to get her $100,000 back. It's going to take probably 10 years, but she's going to get it back, and it's all going to be okay. And they don't have to go through what I went through, which is, it's embarrassing and it's difficult, and it's just something that you never really get over. It leaves you scars, you know?
Right.
And And we just today, I think she's signing right now, this refinance, like right now. Like,
Cool.
so this is so cool that it's synergy. It's total synergy,
Awesome.
right?
Yeah, I mean, you save somebody from bankruptcy without having to go to, you know, one of those debt reconsolidation people or something like that, that just do more
Yes.
damage than good, I think.
Do damage. And the first mortgage was generous and
Yeah.
patient, and he worked with us. And the second mortgage was tough. It was uphill.
Yeah.
It was super uphill, but it got done. And
Wow.
the people that I worked with are absolute champions. And
Congratulations.
I sent out to Dan Heon, who's a rock star.
And he is a mortgage broker?
Yeah, he's one of the best mortgage brokers in Canada.
Oh, no.
Yeah, Dan Heon. I'll put that in the chat. Tell him I sent you. I love Dan. He's never getting rid of me. He's gonna wish he never met me sometimes, I bet. I'm now on my 5th deal with Dan in 6 months. So,
So Julie, we got a question from Oriana. What's your opinion on finding motivated sellers during COVID?
you're gonna have to find them digitally for the most part. So you want to be ready to digitally present to them.
Yeah.
You be ready for COVID restrictions when you're seeing something. But I think that people are motivated in COVID and not in COVID. I know that they are. I've got 2 people I'm working. Oh, can you hear me? It says my connection is on.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
It's wobbling a little bit, but yeah, you're coming through fine.
Okay, what did I say last?
I was reading, sorry. But you were there.
Digitally. You have to find them digitally.
Yeah, you were talking about the digitally finding or doing presentations digitally.
Yeah, you want to be ready to do a presentation digitally, meet people pretty digitally, but again, it goes back to Rick's question. They have to be super motivated. And if they won't meet you, if they won't, do whatever it takes, then they're not motivated,
Mm-hmm.
So that's the test for me. So I see property. Yeah, I see property, and I take COVID precautions, and I sanitize and I wear a mask. But people meet me because they want help.
Got it.
Does that answer your question? I hope.
I think it does. Yeah. Yeah, that answers the question about COVID. Yeah. Absolutely. And then it looks like Verico. Is that Verico? Yeah, Verico is asking if you have another story about a successful deal that you did on one of your like a lease option, vendor take back, agreement for sale, something like that.
Right. So this is so fun. I told you about the pierogi. We bought this house. It was so cute. My husband is the nicest man in the universe. Before the event, Rick and I were getting ready, and Jeff came in and brought me a coffee. He's seriously the nicest guy. Anyway, we found these people who wanted to sell, but they didn't want to use a realtor, and they just been through an absolute mess. So it was a nice Polish older couple, and they bought a house because they said, real estate is how you grow your money. So we're going to buy a house and we're going to put tenants in. And they did. And their first tenant was a gem. And she was awesome. And they're thinking, this is easy, right? But then she found a house and she bought a house, because most of your best tenants, guess what, are going to become homeowners. So anyway, their second tenant, they didn't do, their first tenant, they lucked out, not pre-screening or anything. Their second tenant, they got taken advantage of by what's called professional tenants. These folks damaged their house. They did $30,000 worth of damage, and they squatted for 10 months.
Wow.
Yeah. So these folks were sick of this house, but they're very stubborn and did not want to pay a realtor. So again, anyway, they made a phone call on one of our ads, one of our We Buy Houses ads. It was a sign. And It was a sign that we had outside. And they reached out to us and they said, this is our situation. We said, okay. So what we did is we set up a vendor take back mortgage. So with a interest free, interest only payment. Okay. So the nice thing about it is the people were able to still get some income and they're retired. So it just helped supplement their income. And they had the problem off of their hands. So they just didn't have to worry about it anymore, even though they drove by it every single day for like 90 days to make sure, you know. Now they've relaxed a little bit finally. I've got to go back to the pierogi story and why my husband's such a nice guy. We sat with these people, we put together a solution, we signed all the paperwork. It was a year ago, okay? And they had a company coming over, and my sister-in-law had just sent sent 10 bags of pierogies because she always makes too much to us through FedEx. My husband had picked it up, and he had all these pierogies. And so my husband sat down, we signed all the paperwork. We gave them $100 cash, and then the lady, the seller, her name's Gabby, she said, "Oh, our company's not coming, and they're bringing a pierogi." And my husband says, "Well, I've got 80 pounds of pierogies in my trunk. Why don't we just let that be the down payment too?" And they laughed, and everybody laughed. And he literally went out, got a huge bag of pierogies, and gave them pierogies as part of the down payment. So it's so cute. We call it the pierogi house, and they just love us, and they mostly love him, and it worked out really well. And the nice thing is, yeah, they get that income. The house is off their hands. The vendor take back mortgage was set up so that again, we went on title and we just pay them every month, and we have 5 years to buy it. So what we did is we sold it to a nice family that was having a tough time qualifying for financing and real sick of being tenants and real sick of fixing this house and having their landlord not appreciate it and being a jerk. And it's tough in the Okanagan because we have like a -5% or something ridiculous vacancy rate. It's really hard to find a decent rental, and they were just done. So actually what we did is we sold the house as a lease with an option to purchase. And the buyers were able to buy the house with their RSPs because that was all the money that they had. And so this buyer's named Sean, great guy. He's like, "Oh, I just have 25,000 RSPs. And I'm like, "Well, here's the thing. I'm not going to tell you what to do, but you can use your RSPs. You just have to cash them in." And he's like, "I can do that." And I'm like, "Well, I think you can do it. It's your money. I mean, but here's the thing, Sean, you're going to pay probably tax on that money." He's like, and I was like, "So do you still want to cash out your RSPs?" And he said, "Well, yeah, because I want a house. And if that's the only way I can get a house, then that's what I'm going to do." And I'm like, "Okay, up to you. I'm not going to tell you what to do." But they couldn't qualify for financing. Some people can use their own RSPs as a down payment, but they still have to qualify for financing. In this case, I'm like, you can use whatever you want, but you're going to pay tax. So something that's really cool about this is that he went to his boss and he said, "I just used all my RSPs, so I'm going to have this big tax bill, for this down payment." And his boss said, "Well, why don't I just modify your pay so that you make the same amount and you'll make the same amount and you won't have to pay more taxes?" And Sean's like, "You do that for me?" He's like, "Yeah, and everybody worked together and all worked out. It was just beautiful. And that's a discombobulated story. I feel like I was not ready to tell it, probably because it was a while ago. But we bought it as a VTB, $100 down in a bag of pierogies, and we were able to sell it to a family that, I mean, they treat this house like gold. It's incredible. They are so grateful to be homeowners. And their credit's on its way back. They have a grandbaby, and it works out perfectly because it has a basement suite. Their daughter can be there with their grandbaby. It's just great.
All right.
So is
Great
that a good
story,
story?
Julie. Yeah, that was
Oh,
awesome.
thanks.
Great story. And, I think the lesson here is that there's all kinds of ways to make a deal, and all kinds of things happen during from the stage where you get an accepted offer to the time when you're closing, and you just never know what's going to come up. And having somebody like you in your back pocket to say, hey, you know what, I've got this challenge, how do I fix this? And someone with your experience can help someone who's trying to buy something that gets into a tight spot and they don't know how to deal with it, and their lawyer doesn't know the answer, nobody knows the answer, but you've probably done it before and seen it before and have the answers. Yeah, so
I hope so. That's my job. Yeah, thank you.
yeah, exactly. That's what you do, and investors can rely on somebody like you to. I mean, you can't solve everything, but there's a lot of problems you've seen before, and you know how to get people out of them. So, and get them through to the gate, and get the property closed and the financing in place, and that's that. And those, having somebody like that in your back pocket that you can go to when you run into those challenges is unbelievable. That's it's a huge win.
Thank you.
So we have
Thank you
other
so
questions
much.
here. We have a question from Vivian. Despite the foreclosure and experience in Alberta, you're still continuing to do deals in Calgary. Can you share your view of this market with us?
Okay, this is tricky.
Hmm.
I don't know. I don't have a crystal ball, okay? But the properties, okay. Edmonton is the most affordable city in Canada to live.
Right.
And Calgary is an awesome city. I think it's pretty close behind. And that's what, and so that's a good thing. Now, again, my crystal ball is broken, but I know Alberta and I know the people of Alberta, and the government has changed, which is making it more pro-business, more pro-real estate investor, more pro, oil and gas. And also Alberta's becoming much more diverse. Okay, so there's a lot more tech there because it's really affordable for tech companies to start up there because it's a more affordable place to be. It's way more affordable than anywhere in BC, really, or Ontario. And so there's growth, I think it's poised for growth. And I think that COVID sucks so bad, especially for Alberta, because it was like they were poised for some really strong growth. But that's still there because people from Alberta, they got some serious grit. And they've been in the dumper for so long that they're due for some growth. And they're big cities, and it's very entrepreneurial place, just the whole provinces. They're hustlers. Again, they're tough and innovative, and they are pivoting. So again, they're growing in technology. Their universities are very successful. Their hospitals are very successful. Hospitals are being built. Hockey rinks are being built. Infrastructure is happening, and it's a very affordable place to build things right now. Construction is cheaper because labor is cheaper because more good guys, more smart guys are willing to do the work for less because they want to stay there and they want to feed their families. And a lot of people just want to stay in Alberta. And cannabis is big. Cannabis is big. And it's an essential service. And it's getting bigger and bigger in Edmonton and Calgary as well. There's no land transfer tax. It's way easier for property to cash flow there. So I see good things happening. I don't know when, but I'm getting back in. I'm on my way back in.
So
I'll kind of that.
Thanks for that, Julie. And yeah, and knowing that you're going back in, I mean, you've seen that market, you've had your finger on the pulse of that market for a long time. What I do, I mean, I don't invest in oil country. I never have. I have a different strategy. We all have our strategies, right? And the one thing that I will put out there to investors is that the market in Alberta is more cyclical from a boom and bust cycle than any other market in Canada. And so you have to go in knowing that, and you have to go in buffering yourself so that when you essentially have to time the market there. You have to, and now's the timing for the market because it's low. And when a market is as low as it is, it can only go one way, either flat or up, or two ways. It's either flat or up.
And it
so,
may dip again. I don't know.
And it could dip
right?
again. So you got to know, you got to go in and in this kind of market, you know, cautious, but you can get good deals in this kind of market. That's the whole thing, is if you can get a deal that you've got some good cash flow on, you got a bit of a buffer, the market's not going to, you know, go down a lot more than it is now. And eventually it will go back up. But that being said, when the haystack peaks, it'll come back down. How far it goes back down next time, nobody knows. But just be ready, because you have to be prepared. Don't over leverage. When you start to make a lot of money, don't over leverage in Alberta, because if you over leverage, you'll get yourself in trouble. Yeah.
That's a really good point. That's a really good point. Yeah.
A lot of other places that where, you know, if you look at this, I base all my decisions on statistics, right? So I go back and I look at the multifamily, because I do multifamily statistics for the past 30 to 50 years. And then I go, okay, what is that market? What does the trend look like in that market? Are there big haystacks in the market, or is it relatively flat? If it's relatively flat, you know you can leverage a little higher. If it's got haystacks, you have to buy a little lower. You have to give yourself a little more buffer, and you have to make sure you're prepared for the valleys that are gonna come, because if they've been there in the past, they'll come again in the future. That's just the way markets work.
I want to add something else, and those are all like, I love that, haystacks. I like that. Versus, I don't know, what would you call the little bumps on the side?
Volatility. Yeah.
Yeah. You don't want a lot of volatility. You want steady, you know, steady Eddie is always best.
Well, it is and it isn't, right? So the challenge with Steady Eddie is that the cap rates are really low. So when a market is safe, it compresses cap rates. So there's not a lot of cash flow. So you're buying higher leverage, and that's the challenge. When you're in a higher volatility market, there's, like you said, Alberta cash flow is better because it's a riskier market. So that perception of risk makes sure that the market leaves people a little bit more room to buffer for those valleys in the when they come, because they will come. Everyone knows it.
You're absolutely right. And just a couple of things that I thought of while I was talking to you is the fact that Calgary has over 1 million people, Edmonton has over 1 million people. So you're just going to naturally, in my opinion, for Alberta, you're naturally going to have a bigger market. You're going to have more sellers and you're going to have more buyers. Okay.
Yeah.
And just again, going back to your point, statistically, you're also going to find more motivated sellers because there's just more people.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to find 10 times as many motivated sellers in Alberta overall than I am in Ottawa, in the Okanagan. It's just more likely.
Yeah, and because it's such a big market, the other thing you can do is that you can buy in pockets or districts that are really more resilient when it comes to corrections in the market. Yeah. And so, but that comes with experience though, and you either need to tap into somebody's experience like yourself, or you have to really, really follow the market for a long time and figure out where and connect with people, network with people who are there, doing deals and own properties there, and figure it all out. And that takes some time, it takes energy, but that's what real estate investing is all about. It's all about time and energy. The more you put in, the more you get out.
And I have a very unfair advantage. Okay, Robert Kiyosaki talks about the unfair advantage. I did most of my deals from 2001 to 2006. I mentioned this in Alberta, in Edmonton. I know that city. I know the neighborhoods. I know it really well. So it's easy for me to go back in, and I love Calgary. I've never done anything in Calgary, but I love it because it's just like Denver, where I grew up in Denver, Colorado. Calgary's just like Denver.
There you
And
go.
so, and that's when my drawl comes out when I start talking about Calgary. So it is a cool city. People want to live in Calgary because it's totally cool. And that's why I'm comfortable with Calgary.
All right.
So,
Any other questions from anyone? We had some questions. Oh, here we have a question. Yeah. Well said. Thank you all. Okay. Yeah. So Vivian is thanking us for the tips on Calgary. Anybody else have any questions? Oriana, you got any questions? Not anything to share?
yeah,
What about Verico? Verico, you have any questions?
There were questions.
Julie. Sorry, go ahead.
You're good, Verico? Okay. All right. What about Hannah? Hannah, you have questions?
I'm not off of my head right now. I'm quite new to real estate investing, so I'm learning information as much as I can.
All right. So what have you learned tonight?
welcome.
What have you learned tonight, Hannah?
Well, I learned about agreement for sale and the venture take back. That was like, I heard about it, but I didn't really know in deeper level. So thank you so much, Julie, for explaining it.
All
Welcome.
right,
My
awesome.
pleasure.
Glad you learned something today, Hannah. That's
Thank
awesome.
you.
You're gonna be charging ahead. Just connect with Julie. She'll coach you through it, and you'll be buying properties like crazy in no time.
That's the
There
goal.
you go. There you go.
Yeah, you bet. And so Vivian, yeah. So Harry, what about Harry? Any questions, Harry? No. What about Yala or Lex? Ruben, why don't you say hi to everyone, Ruben? Everybody knows Ruben, right?
Ruben's going to
Oh,
Costa
Ruben.
Rica, isn't he? I think Ruben going to Costa Rica. Isn't he the one?
No, it was Mark. Mark's going to Costa
That was
Rica.
my bad. My bad.
Yeah, and Andrew, you got anything to share, Andrew?
I think that's great.
Hey, guys.
Sue here.
Not really. That was really interesting, though. I actually
Yeah.
remember Julie from way, way, way back where she was giving a presentation at the Ron LeGrand seminar in, I think it was Edmonton in 2009.
Yeah.
And she was telling me a story about how she bought an apartment building and it had gone sideways or something. And I totally remember you from that, from a long, long time ago.
That's
Oh,
awesome.
It was weird. It was a weird weekend because that weekend I signed a deal that set me up for the rest of my life, and it was really an interesting weekend. The Ron LeGrand stuff didn't really jive with me, but after listening to all the stories and everything, I learned a lot, and I have used some of the strategies. But it was interesting. So it's funny how I've known you for a long time, but not really known you. So.
It was nice to make the connection again. I remember that event. I was in the middle of a situation. My Lord.
Yeah, I remember you telling us. Yeah.
And I'm like, you want me to speak? He's like, yeah, why not? I'm like, okay. Okay, I'll speak. He's a wonderful man.
Yeah. He's an
If
interesting
you want to
guy.
if you want to stay a minute, I got another story about Ron LeGrand. If you guys want to hear it, it's
I'd
pretty.
love to hear that. Yeah, because he just had a heart attack and he'd had about 4 stents put in, and he's like 5 weeks later, he's up there talking away and getting people to buy real estate. And I was like, well, that guy's the keeter.
He's a rock star. So I'll tell you, back in the day when I met you. What happened is we bought these properties as condo conversions. So what that means is you take them and you buy a building and then you sell it all. You sell all the condos. So each condo is its own separate title. Okay. And the biggest thing, the reason why I'm talking about this is Ron LeGrand taught me back in 2002. That's when I took my first Ron LeGrand. I took the second one in 2003 because I like to take things twice, obviously. Taught me about title transfer. So when we were early on in realizing that we were in really a lot of trouble, when we bought the properties that we were stuck with, we bought them with the equivalent of a credit card because we thought that we'd just sell them in 30 days like we sold all our other properties. So I was in trouble. Everybody knew I was in trouble. And fortunately, I was able to work with my lender. I went to my lender. I said, listen, I'm going to transfer all these titles to people's personal names, and we're all going to do our best to refinance them. So we transferred title from the company into TD, or sorry, into my name, my husband's name, my business partner's name, my father-in-law's name, and business brother's name, and one other guy. We all worked together. We got all these properties. I see my internet connection is unstable. I don't want you to miss that. Did you
That's
lose me?
right. We got it all. Keep going.
Okay, so we transferred all these titles, and so what that enabled us to do was to refinance them in our personal names. So I would take 5 or 6 properties, condos, to TD. And TD would refinance all 5 condos for me, and it would replace the credit card money with interest-only line of credit money. And it took 2 years. I basically did this I did this with all these people's credit, but I put all of the loans together. So I essentially put 100 loans together. I was only unsuccessful at refinancing 5 out of our 100 doors because they were less than 300 square feet. And if I hadn't learned the power of title transfer from Ron LeGrand, we would have sunk in 6 months. And it would have been terrible. I thought I had it fixed, you know? I was like, okay, the credit month, but the market kept going down. Then lenders started tightening up. You can only use so much credit. The financial world was collapsing, and we ran out of time, and we ran out of rope, and we had a partnership dispute that just was ugly. But it was a miracle that it worked as well as it did for as long as it did, and I very much have Ron LeGrand to thank for that and what I learned from him.
Right, awesome.
I don't know if all that makes sense, but we essentially replaced $4.5 million. $4.5 million.
There's another strategy I want to share with everyone on that same sort of line as condo converting, but it's called severing title. It's a different strategy, severing title. And so I'm going to share my screen for a second here.
I'll stop sharing, yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm going to show everybody what this looks like. I'm going to share my whiteboard, and I'm going to do some drawing on my whiteboard. Now, where did my Zoom? Oh, there it is. Okay, so I just got to share my screen. So I'm going to share. I'm going to share my whiteboard, this screen. Share. All right, can you guys see my whiteboard? Well, where did it go?
So it looks white.
Yeah, just a second here. I just got to find it now. It disappeared on me. There it is. Okay, got it. To move that out of the way. Okay, so can you see my pen? We're drawing?
Not yet.
Oh, okay, so it's not sharing that. So I'm not on that I'm not on the screen. So stop share, and I'm going to do a new share. Share my screen. So I want to share screen 1, whiteboard, screen 2. This screen, screen 1. Share. Okay, you can see it now?
Yeah.
Okay, you see the red
table.
line?
Yeah.
See the red lines? Okay, so let's say you have a townhouse. Okay, so I'm gonna draw a townhouse here. So you got a roof like this, a row house. Let's call it a row house. And you know what a row house looks like, right? It's a bunch of townhouses that are like this, right? In a row on the street. And so you've got everybody's doors. We'll put their doors in here. So these are all individual. Let's call these individual townhouses. Okay, so if you're looking down on it from like a plan view, you've got let's see here. And it doesn't like that. Just a second. Now it moved on me. There we go. So let's say you've got, what do we got here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's do 6. We want to do 6 to make it, whoops. Yeah. Okay, so we've got 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we got 6 townhouses, right? So in Ontario, this is really common in Ontario, Ottawa, all through the Ontario apartment belt, right? And there are all kinds of these row houses that were built, which are like townhouses that are all stuck together, right? Like a townhouse row. And so what you can do is you can go in and you can buy them as a lot of them aren't severed. They're not individually titled. So you go in and you buy like 6 or 8 townhouses in a block and in a row, like this kind of row, right? And you can go in and you can sever title on every second one. So you sever title on this one, and this one. And what happens is that these ones here, they automatically default to individual title. And so when you do that, I've done this, I did this in Windsor. And so you only actually have to pay to sever title on half of the units, the others default to title. And so it's a really cool way to double your money in row houses. So what I did is I paid essentially I paid the value when I bought it of the row house itself, and then when I severed title, I got market value on the individual townhouses, so I doubled my money. It only cost me maybe $5,000 per sever for the lawyer fees, and yeah, it was. And you don't pay any lift on it because you're paying at they don't reassess it that way. You actually retain the same value as the on the units as you purchased it at, so you don't pay additional land transfer tax. So it's a pretty cool strategy.
Awesome.
There we go.
There's all kinds of ways. It's
There's
so
all
fun.
kinds of ways, yeah, exactly. And that's the thing. Somebody like you knows these strategies, and they're, you know, it's if an investor says, hey, I'm looking at this property, it looks like a really good deal. What are the options? What can I do with it? Somebody like you can answer these questions where you got 5 different options. Well, I only thought I could do one thing. Well, no, it's not the case. There are lots of ways to make money on a property that if you don't have the experience, you don't understand. That's why somebody like Julie can help you to look at what the real potential is and the possibilities for making money on a property. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. And so I am going to stop sharing. And so Sue, anything else you want to go over tonight?
No, I'm just saying that I truly believe in what Julie's been doing. I mean, she's taken a ton of courses. She's spent a pretty good dime, I'm sure. Like myself, I'm a big advocate of mentorship and coaches. I'll spend more money than probably people make in a whole year in the last 2 years, most likely. I mean, last year alone, I spent 18 grand, and yeah, just right before COVID, right? On coaches and business mentors. You will get back what you invest, especially when you invest in yourself. And why I say this is that if not in time, but the experience that you accelerate, you can either spend that $18,000 that I spent on my coach on making the mistake and losing the time out, and also possibly losing other opportunities because now you're mellowing because you lost so much money, or invest in yourself. And like Warren Buffett says, the best investment he's ever made is in himself.
That's right.
For crying out, you know, the Oracle Omaha says that, and you gotta, don't take it with a grain of salt. Just take it and run, you know, and do it.
That's right. Exactly.
I mean, for example, I don't do any of those options, lease options, anything else, but being a commercial financing guru, I call it, in the past 18 years, I've done a lot of financing, and I see where many people try to do it, and I try to learn from books and do it, and they fail miserably because A, they don't understand the nuances, and B, they don't understand what's behind what's the next step? What's behind the scene that can get your tenant owner to eventually buy out in 2, 3, 5 years, right? The problem is on the financing side, and if you don't have somebody on your stable like Julie does, maybe connect with Oriana. She's awesome. She's local. That's another thing I advocate too. Even though I teach commercial finance across Canada, I advocate my investors say, you know what? I have somebody I taught in Ontario. His foot's on the ground there. He knows the local credit unions there. We may be able to leverage more on the local credit unions and the big banks. So tap one of my mentees in Ontario, for example, rather than myself. I mean, I can do finance across Canada, but I would defer because look, the worst case scenario could happen. Somebody's foot on the ground is worth more than in somebody's with a lot of knowledge locally here, right? In Vancouver, for that matter. Locally, not in Valley, by the way. So I say, somebody, if you want to invest in areas that might be an interest to you, like Okanagan or Calgary, I think Julie's probably one of the better ones out there right now to invest in because her foot's on the ground. She's skin in the game is what I call it, right? My skin in the game. I invest in places. I don't ask my investors to invest in unless I'm in it. And that's why I like Rick to handle this as well too. His skin is in the game here, right?
Yeah.
And I have to say something. I must have put my foot in my mouth because when I think of Sua, I think of him as an entrepreneur and a coach and leader of a real estate investment group. I forget that he's a mortgage broker. If you need a mortgage broker, you talk to Sua.
It's all good.
Okay?
No, it's all good.
He will take amazing care of you. So I know he will because I know he's been doing this forever, and I feel kind of bad that I mentioned somebody else, but he's in a different box in my mind. Mostly.
So I'm always about it's not a scarcity mindset, it's abundance. I mean, a lot of people get offended when the mortgage brokers come into the real estate group. I actually invite a lot of my colleagues to come and says, hey, come learn. I mean, there's 40, 50 people in the room. I can talk to maybe a handful at any given time. The rest are waiting in line for me. So it's like, crying out loud, just go talk with those guys, right?
I love how everybody that's here, please do whatever you can to spend as much time that you can with Rick and Sua. I've heard from both of them ever since we got on the call tonight early. It was kind of like a event pre-party. They have said over and over, abundance mentality. There's more than enough business to go around. We have an abundance mentality. You need to hang around with people who have an abundance mentality because that will make you better. All ships rise with the tide.
That's right.
So
That's right.
you want to hang around with these guys. So thank you guys.
All right.
Thank you,
awesome.
Julie.
So I guess that pretty much wraps it up for tonight. Are you guys seeing the screen, the startup screen?
Yeah.
You are? Okay, good. Yeah. So if anybody wants to connect with Julie, the information is there. For myself or Sua, if you want to talk to me about anything, buying strategies, investing in the properties that we're purchasing, we offer investment opportunities to investors all the time, and we're starting up our offering memorandum soon. So we'll be promoting opportunities to invest in our offering memorandum for our apartment building investments that we're creating. So we're building apartment buildings over in the Victoria Capital Regional District, and you'll be seeing our offerings come out over the next 6 months. Yeah.
I have a question for you guys. For all those people attending and those people who listen to this, how would you guys feel about having some kind of ownership in the Bali Villa in Ubud, Bali? That you can go to. I'm exploring right now, getting real ownership. Getting real ownership. You don't have to rent. You don't have to lease. You get to own it.
Is that Villa Sua?
No, it's actually it's a villa nearby here that I'm looking at land, and I'm just saying the money here is good right now because the price has plummeted. 2-3 years ago, that price would have been like right now the price is about 40-50% of what it was about 2-3 years ago.
Wow.
It's crazy.
Yeah, there's so many opportunities everywhere. There is no
everywhere.
scarcity. Yeah, it's just you just got to choose your spot and then be be an expert at it. Become an expert.
I just love Bali, Rick. I've been here 4 times the last 2 years, and I actually ventured here during COVID when no tourists is allowed to come here, and I managed to got in. So
Yeah. Huh.
where there's a will, there's a way, my friend.
Yeah.
I am not surprised, so.
Hey, where the will is, there's a way.
All right. Hey, Ruben, I see you there. Ruben, tell us about your what's happening with your investments.
Yeah. Hey, hi everyone. Yeah,
you know Ruben, Julie?
Do we know each other, Ruben?
I think so, but yeah, I haven't been in Alberta lately. But no, I'm shifting a little bit to self-storage, and
Oh, nice.
we
So
gotta.
just before you get started, Ruben. So Julie, Ruben approached me. I don't know how many. When was that, Ruben? Back in maybe five years ago or so.
2016.
2016.
Early 2016.
Asking me how I bought my properties and this and that, and so I coached him through, what I did, how I did it, and everything. And then right away, boom, he went into. Sorry, where was the first place you purchased?
It was a sixplex.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In Sarnia,
And then-
right?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, in Sarnia, just north of Windsor, and he just took off, right? I just told him about the strategies and introduced him to, there's a particular book that I like to introduce people to about, have the mindset around private money investing and private money partnering and all that sort of stuff, and yeah, once he got involved in all the, and I showed him the formula and I helped him with his mindset, it just clicked and he took off. So
Yeah.
tell us what you're up to now.
Yeah, no, I'm really grateful for for all the help that Rick has given me through the years. Not only that one time, I always come to him with different projects. Now we are in developing a self-storage facility now in Champlain. Is about 1 hour from Ottawa. This is a 23-acre piece of land with 2 buildings. Metal buildings, self-storage building with 56 units. And so, but we just got in now. We're close to the winter, so we just kind of starting up kind of slow, but next we're gonna raise capital to do the expansion for more buildings and more parking, because in that area parking for RVs and boats and all of that is very popular. And so it's a very, very nice project, but we just started just about 4 weeks ago, and we had to put a big fence. So yeah, and so we're looking now more on self-storage. We still have the apartment buildings in Sarnia, but the self-storage behave much better than the apartment buildings in this COVID emergency. Yeah, everyone pays. So yeah, so that's what it is. Our next project is raising capital for this development in Champlain, and so we'll expand. That's
All right.
yeah.
Congratulations. I'm so happy for you.
Yeah.
I heard a statistic that people during COVID, like what they did instead of going on vacation is they bought RVs, and now there's no place to park them.
Yeah.
So imagine the same thing's happening in Ontario. And it's interesting. An RV will never wreck your place.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
you just do
Like hardly
gravel.
ever.
Yeah, you just do gravel and a fence and rent the space. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Congratulations.
Ruben. I'm glad
Thank you.
Glad to hear you closed on that, and that you're building and expanding, and you're increasing your size of your portfolio and your net worth and everything. So that's fantastic. Good for
Yeah.
you.
Thank you, Rick. Yeah.
And you're participating with you have investors participating, so you're going to make them a lot of money too.
Oh yeah, in the buildings in Sarnia, we have refinanced 3 times now, and few of them they got all the money back in 3 years, and the buildings are performing well, but it's still we got that issue of rent payment, where in self-storage we don't have anyone defaulting. I mean, they don't, they pay.
Yeah,
So-
but even if you're not doing great on the cash flow side, you're always gaining equity. So
Oh yeah, yeah.
there's
The price
there's
is
money.
yeah.
There's still money being made. It's just being made on the passive side instead
Yeah.
of on the cash flow side.
Yeah, it's still we are not negative on the buildings, but it's different. So we are kind of trying this strategy on the self storage and get more expertise, like you were saying. Get in a niche. At the moment, apartment buildings are too expensive now in that area. Sarnia and all of that is not working. So self storage is at least for the next couple of years. We'll get into that.
All
More.
right, good for you.
Yeah.
Well,
Thank you.
so soon you're going to be an expert at it, and you're going to have to do a presentation for everyone on how you did it.
I will be glad to do it. Yes.
All right, we can't wait for that. That's going to be awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Ruben.
Thank-
Anything else? Anybody else have any other questions? Let me see. Where'd the chat go? Just in case somebody types something.
Thanks a
else.
lot, Julie. I gotta run, guys.
All right,
Thanks,
Sue.
Chad.
I'm gonna wrap
Take
things
care.
up here.
Take care.
You enjoy your night or your day, whatever it is. And
Yeah.
so everybody, I'm going to wrap things up now. I want to thank Julie again. And I will switch the screen here. Or are you guys seeing the Synergy REN screen?
No.
You're not? Okay, yeah. So I got to switch that.
Yeah.
Or,
Thank you, Julie, for your talk. It was very, very, very learning on that.
Good. My
Thank-
pleasure, Ruben. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you. Thank you. Same to you.
are you seeing the screen now?
No, it's still.
Strange, huh? So stop share. And then I'm going to reshare again and see if it works this time. All right, so did it work this time? Are you seeing the Synergy REN screen?
Still me.
Pardon me?
No.
Oh, there is a Synergy REN part. It's mostly me. It's me.
It's your picture?
It
Oh,
is.
that's weird. So the PowerPoint is not working or what?
What I do is I always look for the green.
No, I know,
trim.
but it was there, it popped up there, and then it disappeared. Very strange.
Very
That
strange.
was the
You
game.
did great though, Rick. Rick, you're a pro. Did
All
great.
right. Well, anyways.
It's hard to do all these things, It's hard. Oh, there it is. Maybe.
Oh, is it popped up again?
Oh, this
Oh,
is
this
my.
is the old presentation. I got the wrong one.
That's from way back when.
Yeah, that was the other presentation. Yeah. Here, I'll find it again.
Fantastic.
All right. Okay, so this is not going to work because I'm just going to say goodbye to everyone. Because
Okay.
I'm not going to put the screen up because it just doesn't want to go up.
Okay.
Anyways, thanks for everything you do, Julie. You're awesome, and
You too.
can't wait to have you back again at
Yeah.
some point in the future. And
I
Ruben,
can't wait to
can't
be
wait
back.
to see your presentation as well.
Yeah, good.
All right.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good
Bye, everybody.
Good
Good
night.
night.
Good night, Harry. Good night,
All the
Vivian.
best.
night.
All right, take care. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
I'll post the video tomorrow.